I hope we're all still friends when this is over. I was born in Des Moines, Iowa on March 6, 1935, in the middle of a blizzard. My mom told me that when she went to the hospital, the staff told her she should walk, and her feet were so swollen, the only shoes she could get her feet in was my dad's big buckled galoshes. So up and down the hall she went. That was the hometown of not only both my parents, but both sets of grandparents and a wide, extended family. During the summer of 1939, my dad was injured at work, lost half his right thumb, and received a cash settlement. That small pocket of money allowed him to realize a dream of his for 7 years, to return to California. Mom, Dad, and I came the following summer. We headed for the Los Angeles area where there was family and where he had lived during junior high and senior high school. I entered kindergarten there in October of 1940. My dad could not find a job and began looking in the Bay Area, and he found one, and we moved north. By the start of 5th grade, I had attended 5 schools in 2 states. The upshot was that I attended only 5 weeks of kindergarten and skipped all of 2nd grade. I graduated from San Leandro High School in 1952, shortly after my 17th birthday, really not ready for the world. I had no problem qualifying to enter UC Berkeley that fall. Although I had good grades, I had very few successful study habits. School had been so easy, but it took UC Berkeley to bring that home to me, and several years to understand the situation. I finished my freshman year with a few dismal grades and dropped out. I got an office job and was soon restless, began putting money aside so I could return to an education. In need of some regular exercise, I enrolled in a roller skating dance class. There used to be a roller skating rink where Bayfair Shopping Center is now in San Leandro. Before that, there was a racetrack there, believe it or not. I'd been skating since the age of 4, and in Berkeley I had started ballet and tap dance lessons, later adding Polynesian and interpretive dance to the list. Dancing and performing was become the main theme of my life for several years. My dad was a dancer and a musician, and many other members of the family are similarly talented. I met my future husband, Richard, at the rink, and we started dating. It became serious pretty quickly, and he convinced me to postpone school and get married, which we did in January of 1956. We were married 55 years until his death in March of 2011. My search for spiritual understanding and enlightenment began with a bang in May of 1958, when I was in labor for my oldest child, Kathleen. I had been in labor for 12 hours, not very long by standards I later came to understand, but it seemed to me at the time to be taking forever. I was having trouble delivering Kathy's head, and my doctor decided to use a low forceps to help. He ordered the anesthesiologist to put me under. The thought in my mind was, this is taking too long, and I can't do it. With that thought, I whisked through the ceiling and found myself floating over the hospital. I could see through a little hole in the roof, look down upon a room, a tiny delivery table, and myself lying on it. I was floating in the ether, and there was some other entity floating next to me and slightly behind to my left side. I heard a soothing voice telling me I could do it, and that in the time I really had, this was just like the snapping of fingers. With that, I was back. I had the presence of mind to avoid telling my doctor about the experience. He would have moved me to the 6th floor psych ward in a flash. I also avoided telling my husband because I wasn't sure where his mind was in terms of such occurrences, which at the time were termed parapsychological events. I waited 6 months to bring up the subject and was pleasantly surprised at his response. In the meantime, I got real busy with the baby and spent untold hours in the public library searching for an explanation that made sense to me about what had happened. In 1958, those were few and far between. I finally connected with some books about Edgar Cayce and began to understand and believe in reincarnation. In 1964, when he was 34, Dick was learning to water ski. The exertion caused bleeding in his left kidney, and he was diagnosed with a rather severe genetic kidney disability. He actually only had the left one. They estimate that up to 40% of the population may be in that situation, but as long as the one is working well, you never find out. Our girls were 9 and 6 and 4 at the time. Doctors ordered surgery, but were not certain whether he would survive it or be able to work again. He underwent 6 hours of surgery and was placed in ICU in critical condition, but he made it. Amazingly, he was released from the hospital in 10 days, not the 3 weeks that had been predicted. And when his 27 stitches were removed, you could hardly see the incision line, but it went from here to here, all the way down his side. He was so healed already. He was off work for 3 months and climbing the walls with frustration. None of his medical team would make any prognosis for his future. He returned to work with restrictions on climbing telephone poles. Many. Meanwhile, I was struggling with thoughts of the future. I had the 1 year of university under my belt, but I thought I might have to become the major breadwinner, and I didn't feel prepared. So I decided I had to return to college to get enough education to become more employable. Already involved with the preschool at our church, I enrolled at Chabot College to study early childhood development. I completed all courses and applied to transfer to Cal State Hayward, now East Bay, but I don't call it that. They accepted me as a qualified junior in the human development department, and 2 days later I found out I was expecting another child. So I waited again to return to school until my son was entering 2nd grade. My undergraduate program in human development was multidisciplinary, including psychology, philosophy, sociology, biology, anthropology, spirituality, surprisingly, and organizational development. I thought I was headed for an elementary credential program. But during the spring of 1979, I responded to a posting to attend a brown bag luncheon presentation from several graduate psychology programs. One of them was John F. Kennedy University, then in Orinda, now in Pleasant Hill. I was very impressed with what I heard and made an appointment for an interview with the dean. One bonus was that no statistics were required. I was accepted into the transpersonal psychology counseling program, and it changed my life. Transpersonal psychology combines Eastern and Western psychology and spiritual practices. This tough program consumed 3 years of my life with only 10-day breaks between quarters, 4 quarters a year. I graduated in May 1985 with an MA. The experience I want to share with you came about through an assignment just after completion of my first year at Kennedy. That assignment was to take a mini vision quest, spend 24 hours in silence, preferably outdoors, and fasting, and be open to whatever happened. One of my fellow students invited me to join her. A friend of hers had offered the use of a house at Sea Ranch up in Mendocino County. And so we got together and planned. We left early on a Saturday morning and drove up there. We arrived at Sea Ranch about 11:30 a.m., toured the house, and decided she would stay inside and I would spread my sleeping bag in the backyard on the dry grass. So I would like to take you into this experience as a guided meditation, and hopefully you will be able to get a feeling for the experience I had that day. So you know the drill, but please settle in your seat. Put your feet flat on the floor and begin to breathe deeply and slowly, in through your nose and out through your mouth. In and out. Picture yourself behind the cabin, sitting on a sleeping bag with a notebook and pencil at hand. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The sky is overcast, and there's a slight breeze blowing from the west. About 300 yards away, across a dry, grassy field, and slightly to the right, there is a backhoe with a very loud engine digging in the soil. Somewhat to the left, there's a grove of pine trees. The backhoe is drowning out the soft sound of waves from the ocean. The noise is annoying, but as the afternoon moves on, the digging comes to a stop. Now you can hear some birds chirping and the sound of waves. It's a time of growing calm as the sun goes down. From out of the trees, several deer appear, and they are not pleased to share this environment with you. They seem to be telling you that you are an outsider and not welcome. Darkness grows. The deer disappear into the trees. Crickets are chirping in the grass. You sip some water and settle down for the night's vigil. You wait and watch. Your mind is calm and open. The night seems to pass quickly, and suddenly it's dawn. The deer reappear and come closer. Their eyes are softer and more welcoming. There's a hum in the air, and you can't determine its source. A young deer comes even closer and looks into your eyes. A small snake slithers under the sleeping bag, and you can feel its progress. A butterfly circles your head and lands on your foot. Words are simmering in your brain, and you can't wait to put them on paper. You write them down as they pour out of your mind without censoring. You add some drawings to the page. It's the only poetry you have ever written. You are calm, feel refreshed, and read back the words on the page. You try to decipher what has happened. It's clear that you've been blessed and accepted into the world of creatures and nature, and you are all one part of each other. Dare I say you've had a glimpse of oneness? Continue breathing, and when you're ready, come back to the room and open your eyes. A copy of the words I wrote that morning are in your order of service on the pink page. I have a copy of the original piece with me, and you can see the artwork if you're interested after the service is over. Thank you for going on this journey with me.